New York's law system is taking a victory lap now over the ruling with Donald Trump. Letitia James has decided that she's going to spearhead that event and celebrate putting away or punishing another criminal. Now, I shouldn't say putting away because they haven't put him in jail yet, but of course that is the goal. She came out and she said, Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal. Put that one on Facebook. She then took a shot at Trump's character. I'm reading from NPR, who kind of glowingly wrote about James. The scale and the scope of Donald Trump's fraud is staggering, and so too is his ego and his belief that the rules do not apply to him. She's been accused of having political bias. I'm going to go through some things that are on her resume, and I want you to point out what's interesting about this. She is flaunting the fact that she took down a person that she pledged to take down. She called him illegitimate. She, by quote, called him an illegitimate president, which shouldn't that be election? Anyways, so she comes out. She says he's illegitimate. She's going to get him. So what is she going to do? If somebody says, I'm going to get you, they're going to try to find anything they can. They're going to decide your character is wrong, evil, awful, and so they're coming after you. It concerns me, which is really kind of a light word to use. It concerns me when somebody comes at you and says, I'm going to find something. And I'm not trying to be a Trump apologist, and we say that all the time on the podcast, but I get tired of people saying, I'm going to find something. That tells me that you don't like the person, you don't like their politics, so you're coming after them in a personal vendetta. Now, James, what else has she done? 2019, when Trump was still in the White House, she pursued a lawsuit against his charitable operation, as reported by NPR. She got them to shut down his Trump Foundation and pay a $2 million fine. Okay, so maybe there were problems with the charitable foundation. Has she gone after the Clinton Foundation? Her corruption lawsuit against the NRA, that's ongoing, and she's basically milking them out of their money. And NPR actually celebrates this fact, saying, bringing them to the brink of insolvency. And then her office probed sexual harassment allegations against Andrew Cuomo. Now, people who don't care or don't want to care will point out, well, yeah, he's a Democrat and he was governor and she went after him, so that means that she's not politically biased. If you remember correctly, Andrew Cuomo was already under fire by the Democrat Party. He was radioactive material for them. And all of a sudden, a sexual harassment allegation comes out. He knows he can't fight it. And so he resigns, he's done, and Hochul gets put into place. And if you notice, it happened with Mayor Adams in New York City. As soon as you don't tout the line or you may become radioactive, all of a sudden a sexual assault allegation comes out of the woodwork. Campaign fraud allegation comes out of the woodwork. They're trying to find something that they can nail you with. And especially when you look at stuff like campaign, you look at stuff like real estate dealings, the laws and regulations are so massive. It's kind of like tax. They can get you for something on tax. It just matters, are they going to actually go after you? And Cuomo was one of those. Almost guaranteed somebody from the Democrats sat down with her in her office and said, look, or gave her a phone call or went out to lunch or something and said, hey, Cuomo, we got somebody. And that was it. And Cuomo knew. If you look at how he handled that situation, you look at how Adams handled his situation, they knew it was coming from above and they couldn't fight it. And Adams has completely reversed, and we can get into that later. Adams is now pushing the full immigrant thing, but that's another story. Back to James. So, of course, she's going after Trump. She's going after his kids. She's going after the people around him. She's going after him. And she's taking the victory lap. And the criticism of political bias is being pointed at, no political bias here. And even NPR is trying to run cover. But we all sit back, and she even says, well, it's juries and judges that are really making the final verdict. It can't be me. It can't be bias. Except if you look at the judge in the Trump case with the real estate dealings, he wasn't exactly unbiased either. Look at how he treated the situation from the beginning. Look at the fact that he ignored the real estate valuations from the experts, from the banks, from Trump. Said, no, none of that matters. $20 million. Mar-a-Lago is only worth $20 million. And you know what makes that really dangerous is now that they've set that precedent, they said, you owe us $365 million. If Trump tries to sell his assets, they could come back and say, no, you're overinflating your value again on your assets. That property, the hotel or the tower, no, you say they're worth $200 million. They're really worth $15 million. That's all we're going to accept for that. They can milk him of his properties through this because they've just proven they can decide what your property is worth. Now, James, I see her as corrupt. I see the whole New York system as corrupt. I see the DC system as corrupt. They're hacks, all of them. But do you notice the government is now getting itself involved in defining what private property is worth? Two parties determined between themselves what a property was worth. Trump and the bank went back and forth and decided on this number. It was a negotiation, and they agreed to it, and both parties were happy. And then the government comes in and says, no, we don't think that's the proper value of it. They've just determined they have supremacy over the value of your property. That's insane. That means that they do not believe you actually own your property or that you can have a business dealing between you and another consenting adult. They believe they should be the arbiter of the contract. This has massive implications that too many people are too blind to see, especially these Democrat hacks that post in our comments saying, well, Trump's so evil and awful and Biden's not that bad and blah, blah, blah. You're missing it. You're missing how they're railroading rights. I don't care if Trump is good or not. What I care about is, are they sticking to the principles in trying to get him? The problem is they're not. The whole case came down to Trump overvalued his assets, therefore he committed fraud. They just put themselves in the place of deciding what a property is worth when two negotiating parties consented and approved of the deal. This is ludicrous, and you should be really concerned about where the value of your private property is going. Because now all of a sudden the government can come in and tell you, yeah, well, you're saying it's worth that, and you sold it 5 years ago for that, but we don't think that's true. Why can't they do it for taxes now? Well, you said it's only worth $5 million, but we think it's really worth $20 million, so you're going to owe us back taxes on it. They're getting in the middle of your own private interactions. This is to Democrats, Republicans, whoever, pay attention. They're getting into the middle of your own private interactions. We saw it with the Colorado cake baking thing. People were so intent on forcing somebody to do something that he didn't want to do that they never thought about the fact that what if they got forced to do something they didn't want to do? The government got involved in a business interaction. The government got involved in a private transaction. The government got involved where there were no victims, no complaining parties. There was no allegations from a private party. Nobody brought the case forth. A crazy attorney general from New York decided she was going to make it her mission to get Trump. She found something that she thought she could push, and she got a judge who from the beginning flat out said, he's guilty, we're not even going to talk about that. And then wouldn't let Trump defend himself saying these charges aren't true. He was not allowed to use that in his defense. We're watching the implosion. And it's so important to stick to principles. As you watch the implosion, stick to principles. And it's going to get harder and harder to stick to your principles. And you're going to find out real quick what's concrete and what's not. And for us, self-evident, it's God's law, it's God's direction, it's Christ on your hearts that will provide that conviction, that principle. And you'll see things clearly. If you don't have the morality of Christ on your heart, it may be harder to see things clearly. I'm not saying you can't. And there's plenty of people who are Christian who don't want to see because our pride gets in the way. But the illumination of the heart recognizes the small, slow, subversive march towards evil. And I hope you guys will check out more of what we got going on. Check out our podcast, check out our website, theselfevidenttruth.com. If you want more of this, be sure to subscribe. I hope I've provided something for you. This news stuff, man, we go back and forth. And it's like, do we do it? Do we not? But it needs to be said, and we need to shine a light on it. So we're going to do that. I hope you guys have a great day.